Two brothers from South London, who have just been convicted of shooting a rival, were also involved in a plot to steal millions of pounds worth of Chinese artefacts from a museum in Geneva back in 2019. It's taken the police nearly 6 years to get a conviction due to the different cases that he involved. The Ahern brothers broke into the Far East Museum in Geneva back in 2019 and stole a Ming Dynasty vase along with several other artefacts. Some of them were sold on and they were recovered by the police, but the brothers made money from. And another artefact, the Ming Dynasty vase, ended up in London, and it was found after police had been contacted by an auctioneer to say that somebody tried to sell a vase from the Ming Dynasty. The police in London then contacted the people that were trying to sell the vase, set up a meeting and made an arrest. At Southwark Crown Court, Mbeke Nkawa, 47 years old from the Heights, Charlton, and Kane Wright were found guilty of conspiracy to convert criminal property. And in 2023, years later, David Lemming from Lewisham was convicted of the same charge. Stuart and Louis Ahern, the two brothers from Woolwich who actually committed the robbery, were awaiting trial at this time in Switzerland over the museum thefts, following their extradition late last year. And this is where the second part of the story comes in. Several months after they stole the Ming Dynasty vase, the police have now convicted them for shooting another man called Paul Allen, who was a former cage fighter and a good friend of convicted Securitas robber Lee Murray, in 2019 inside his home. His story on its own is very interesting, and he was one of the several men that was convicted of his involvement in £53 million cash heist back in 2006. He served 6 years of an 18-year sentence behind bars after the cash depot robbery in Kent. It was the largest cash robbery in the UK. It was reported at the time that himself, Lee Murray, and 5 other members of the gang spent months planning the robbery in Kent, and Allen and Murray, who are now 40, this was in 2018, fled to Morocco soon after, and he's currently, Lee Murray, I believe, he's serving his sentence in Morocco. He's half Moroccan. The robbery took place on the 21st of February 2006 and ended in the early hours of the 22nd. As we know, they did surveillance, but it was also stated they had an insider inside the depot, and the gang abducted the manager and his family the same night that they did the robbery. They tricked their way into the building and tied up 14 workers and stole the $52,996,000. Most of the getaway vehicles were found the following week, and one of them contained 1.3 million in stolen notes, and raids by Kent police discovered 9 million, and another 8 million was found in 2007. 36 people were arrested in total for that robbery, but only half the money was discovered. Over 30 million was still missing and has never been discovered. Daniel Kelly, along with brothers Stuart and Louis Ahern, were found guilty of conspiracy to murder after a conclusion of a trial on the 24th of March 2025. The jury heard evidence that Kelly and the Aherns carried out a shooting in Woodford Green on the 11th of July 2019, after weeks of carefully planning, including surveillance of the intended target and putting a tracking device on his car so they would know his whereabouts. On the night of the shooting, the 3 men travelled from their homes in South East London to Woodford Green using a car that had been hired 2 days earlier by Stuart Ahern. While he waited in a car that was parked on Worcestershire Avenue, Kelly and Louis Ahern snuck into the garden of a house on a street that overlooked the back garden of the target's house in Morven Drive at around 11:10 at night. 6 shots were fired for the back door and windows of the house in Morven Drive, and at least one of them hit Paul Allen. He was 45 years old at the time, and he was standing in the kitchen. Kelly and Ahern fled back to the waiting car, which drove away, leaving the victim fighting for his life. Police and the ambulance service arrived and attended to the victim, and he was taken to hospital where they saved his life, but he was permanently paralysed. Over the course of the coming weeks, the police put together a case, and following forensic analysis of the victim's house and garden, DNA profiles were recovered from a fence of an adjoining property in Worcester Avenue, where the 2 suspects had fired the shots from. The profiles both matched Kelly and Louis Ahern. Bullet casings found in the garden and bullets found inside the address that had missed their target enabled evidence to establish the firearm used was a Glock SLP handgun, and a search of Kelly's address found a scope that was compatible to this gun. CCTV analysis of the surrounding area in Morven Drive picked up that the car was driven by Stuart Ahern, and this provided a vehicle registration number which detectives were able to use to confirm it was a hire car. They tracked it down to where it was hired from, and the company told them that Stuart Ahern was the hirer of the vehicle. Police used ANPR and CCTV cameras, and detectives pieced together the movements of the car after it was hired on the 9th of July 2019 in Dartford. Police subsequently established that the car had been used to commit a burglary at an address in Sevenoaks, Kent, the same evening. It was confirmed the car had travelled from South East London, where the three suspects were based, up to Woodford Green area on the 10th and the 11th of July, prior to carrying out the shooting. On the 10th of July, the defendants undertook a journey tracking a car known to be used by the victim. The court heard the defendants had fitted a tracking device to the victim's car using an iPad, which was subsequently thrown into the River Thames, and it was later recovered by the police, and they said that it was used to track the car's movements. Detectives used phone data from devices attributed to Kelly and the Ahern brothers to help track their movements both before and after the shooting, and they matched it up with the camera footage from the ANPR and CCTV to map the journey that the hire car took. Following the shooting, Stuart Ahern returned the car to the hire company on the 12th of July, even though he went to subsequently rehire it again on the 17th of July. Police had established that it had been used by the suspects and traced it to Birmingham Airport. The car was forensically analysed and Kelly's prints were found on 2 places inside the vehicle. By October 2019, detectives were in a position to start making arrests. Between the 30th of October 2019 and the 23rd of July 2020, all 3 suspects were arrested and all denied their involvement, but the evidence that detectives had diligently gathered meant that they were charged. Detectives continued pursuing all lines of inquiry and piecing together the movements of Kelly and the brothers as the iPad used by Kelly to monitor the movements of the victim. They only discovered the iPad in 2024 when they got it out of the Thames. During the intervening period, the Met Police teamed up with a part investigation with Switzerland Police after they learned about the burglary of a museum of Far Eastern arts, and this occurred in Geneva a month prior to the shooting. The court heard how elements of the offending echoed the shooting, and they included the Renault Capture car that was used, which was the same hire vehicle. The Ming Dynasty vase had been taken in the burglary. Police then agreed with Switzerland to extradite Stuart and Louis Ahern to Switzerland, where they stood trial and were convicted in January 2024. Both of them were subsequently returned to the United Kingdom on extradition to be tried for the shooting in London, and they have just been convicted of that case. Detective Superintendent Matt Webb, who led the investigation, said the court heard the defendants were hardened organised criminals and they worked together in a well-planned and orchestrated manner to shoot the victim, and it's only for the intervention of the police that he survived. The conviction follows a number of investigations and many years of diligence by our partners and tenacity in the attempt to bring those responsible to justice. And they will be sentenced very shortly, but they're definitely going to get big sentences, and we'll definitely update you on that story. But I really want to hear what people have to say on that story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. It really does help if you drop a comment and share the stories and help support the channel. I'll be back again very shortly with some more news.